I bet, like a lot of people, you didn't know that Anthony Hopkins had wrote music and was a composer in his former days before he became an actor. Now, I didn't know that until recently when there was a YouTube video going around, which I'm going to play today, with André Rieu and The Waltz Goes On, which he put his magical touch to and presented to him in Vienna at a concert when Anthony was there with his wife. And apparently the wife had surprised him and sent him the particular piece through, I think, Andre's wife. That's the connection, the two wives. And he did his thing and then presented the finishing touch as a surprise. Well, it was a surprise to millions of people around the world because we just took him for the Silence of the Lambs star. Sir Anthony Hopkins is the rarest of beasts, an actor and also composes music. My whole life I have felt like an outsider, he says, and it's true to say that Hopkins, actor, writer, director, composer, is in almost every sense exceptional. The select group of film actors who have also been able to turn their hands successfully to directing is very small. They include Clint Eastwood, Woody Allen and Orson Welles. But it's even less common for an actor-director to compose the musical soundtrack that requires a degree of creative versatility that eludes all but a handful of filmmakers. Now, Charlie Chaplin is probably the most famous member of this rare field group, but some doubts remain over how much he truly contributed to the finished scores that were credited to him. Hopkins, on the other hand, is a composer to his core, and that makes him a unique figure in Hollywood. The CBSO's Enterprising Soundtrack to Your Summer Festival features 5 concerts of film music, including works by Hopkins. Tommy Pearson, whose brainchild the festival is an evangelical about the importance of film music in our lives. Quoted, "People love to come and hear film music in concert. It's enjoying a fascinating renaissance. I always try to present something new in film music concerts. The funny thing is that if you try to present a musical premiere in a normal classical concert, a lot of people are likely to be put off. But with film music, it isn't like that at all," he says. "The audience wants to hear music from movies that are still current. And it comes as a surprise to most people that Hopkins' first passion was never acting at all, but music. Well, it certainly came as a surprise to me. My interest in music," he said, "started when I was 4 years old. My parents bought me a piano, and I had a piano instructor. And by the time I was 10, I was playing Beethoven and Chopin. I used to play Beethoven over and over again to the point where my father asked me to stop. Once he asked me, 'What are you playing?' And when I responded Beethoven, my father said, 'No wonder he went bloody deaf.'" That's something my father would have said. A straight talker with an irrelevant sense of humour, Hopkins inherited much from his father. And now he can pick and choose his film projects and contribute creativity in whichever way he wishes, whether it's to be as an actor, a director, a writer, or composer. For his film Slipstream in 2007, he did everything, everybody. But I'm interested to find out what he has made of the experience of composing a new orchestral piece for these concerts. It is one thing, he says, to write music to accompany a film, but it's quite another to compose an abstract piece of music that is a world of its own. So how does he approach his creative freedom? He answers, "I experiment with different instruments and it all seems to have its own rhythm and outcomes. So how does the music come to him? Well, I conceive every piece of music in my head away from the piano. I hear the music in my head and it slowly starts to develop and take shape. Most of the music that I am now composing has been inside me for 45 years. Assisting Hopkins with details of the orchestration was composer Stephen Barton, who wrote for the music the video game Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, but the compositions are truly all his own work. Hopkins has always been respectfully dismissive of any attempts to try to analyse what he does as an actor, because he left acting theory behind shortly after leaving RADA. Katharine Hepburn advised him, "Don't act, read the lines, just be." And so he does. Now largely it's instinctive. He's a man of immense character, artistic urges, as evidenced by the relish which he has attacked the piano as a boy, but no particular interest in discussing the reasons for those urges. He isn't uncommon amongst composers. When you are a composer, you're often asked to explain your music, and it frequently takes quite a feat of will to refrain from simply blurting out, he says, it's all been there in the music, just listen. The urge to compose is, to a very great degree, inexplicable, but nonetheless, here we are. And there was a concert of his music by the CBSO, a marvelous opportunity for a composer of any age, and people are naturally interested in the little-known passion of this exceptionally well-known man. So the question was put, what sort of music can the audience expect to hear when the first notes blossom in Vienna with Andrei Rieu? What music does he love? Well, he simply puts it, I enjoy classical music, the great Russian composers, and as well as British and American composers. And what does he listen to pop music-wise? As far as pop music is concerned, there is so much young talent in the mainstream music world that it's difficult to say what I like. I enjoy going to American Idol and seeing a 16-year-old perform and be given the opportunity for success. Someone like Lady Gaga is an inspiration to those kids, not Beethoven. Hopkins now lives by the sea in Southern California, a very different climate from that of Port Talbot, where he grew up in Wales. Does life in California feed into his musical style, or is his heart still in Wales? Wales, he says, is a recurrent theme of mine for everything I do, painting, music, my dreams. It will be fascinating to hear if there is a tangible Welsh influence in his music style then. And I wonder how he hopes his music will be received. He responds inscrutably, I don't have expectations. Okay, but is he pleased with his music? And he finally says, it's difficult for me to judge my own music, but I am extremely pleased with the process. Well, he may be reluctant to talk about his music, but there's no denying that this is a deeply significant moment for Hopkins, especially when an incredible composer like Andrei Rieu puts his golden magical touch to it, as we are about to hear. I felt the whole concert lacked something, but then this happened. This piece of magic happened. He stood up, he thanked the crowd, but at the same time, he was in awe that somebody as outstanding as Andrei Rieu would take a piece of his music, add to it, and present it to the world. Well, I'm glad I'm alive to listen to it. I'm glad I'm alive to present this to all of you. And I'm sure you are all glad alive. All of you are glad to be alive, I should say, to listen to Andrei Rieu and The Waltz Goes On, composed by Anthony Hopkins. Thank you for listening. Let's listen, savor, and enjoy.
Bravo. Bravo.
Well, Sir Anthony Hopkins, congratulations. And I actually am choking up with emotion because I'm in awe of him as an actor, and I think he's contributed so much to my love of film, of theatre, but now of music in a whole new perspective, because up among the greats of Beethoven and Chopin, people say there will never be anybody else. But if you listened properly to that music, it's up there, isn't it? It's so stunningly beautiful. And to have a master such as André Rieu blowing kisses and everybody bowing to Sir Anthony Hopkins, it indeed is a great homage for me to have done this video. Finally on the video, And the Waltz Goes On was a second studio album by Dutch violinist André Rieu that features Christchurch soprano Hayley Westenra on the last track, Dreaming of New Zealand. Now, the album was released worldwide on the 31st of October 2011, and it presents waltzes from around the world, including Waltz Tristi, Sad Waltz, from Finland, and a miniature waltz, La Petite Valse, from France, and a popular waltz tune that began life in Germany. Now, the album is centered on a waltz composed by Welsh actor Anthony Hopkins, as we just heard and seen. And the Waltz Goes On was composed by Hopkins in 1964. Apparently, the Dutch violinist, Hopkins' wife, who sat there beside him blowing kisses, sent his waltz to Rieu for consideration. Inspired by New Zealand's stunning landscape and the life must go on attitude of its people in the face of the recent natural disasters, André composed a dreamy waltz together with his first violinist, Frans Stasians, entitled Dreaming of New Zealand. The album includes both an instrumental version and one with English and Maori lyrics. And Maori lyrics, for those, is commonly shortened to Te Reo, is an Eastern Polynesian language. The album reached #1 in the official UK classical charts, as well as the classical FM chart, after its release in the UK. On the 2nd of October 2012, the album got the honour of a Classical FM Album of the Year in association with MasterCard from Classic Brit Awards 2012. Well, that's everything, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed this comprehensive homage to Sir Anthony Hopkins, and thank you, André Rieu, for the music and your magical touch. And the waltz goes on, will go on, for many generations to come who listen to this kind of music.